Today, we'll take a closer look at air rifles, and we will be comparing them to real firearms to try to find out if they can be just as powerful. For our test today, we'll be using different guns that range from less to more powerful. In the firearm area here, we have the 22 long rifle bolt action, and we have two handguns, one chambered in 32 ACP and the second one in 9mm parabellum. For the air rifles, this simple break action is a spring-powered rifle, and this is what you commonly see kids using for plinking, for close range. But these are powered by compressed air, and they are way more powerful, and some people actually use them for hunting. Just speaking from my memory, I'll go through the different muzzle energies of these guns here, and I will try to put them in perspective. So here for the 22 long rifle, it depends if you have subsonic or supersonic rounds. It's around, I would say, 150 joules. For the 32 ACP, we are talking about 220, 250 joules. And for a 9mm round, let's say from 400 to maybe 500 joules of energy. Again, depending on the length of the barrel and depending on what kind of rounds do you use. For this air rifles here, the weakest one is around 7 joules. This one here is 300 joules, and the most powerful one can achieve up to 600 joules. So that's a lot. To put that in perspective, 1 joule of energy is enough to break your skin. Around 80 joules can already be considered lethal. Now let's go to the targets. For the best comparative results, we have selected a wide range of materials that differ in structure, hardness, and chemical composition. This will allow us to gauge the proper terminal ballistic effect on target. Redneck Science! For the first test, I'll be using this non-stick pen that I stole from Manza. It's made from thin aluminum, and I'll be shooting it with everything that we got. Prvo sem samo to naredil. To je pa ono. Daj bom še eno strelo tukaj zdaj. These are our hits, ranging from the least to the most powerful one for the air rifle, and the bottom one are for the firearms. Now let's shoot at some other media to see how these compare. Quite interesting results. So please keep in mind that this is normal white clay. It's not ballistic, rated or whatever, so it's quite soft. But it's still, it's a good indicator to show how much of transfer of energy there is. And you can see that from the bulges in the front and from the damage in the back. Okay. So on the upper row, we were shooting with air rifles from the least powerful to the most powerful, and in the lower row, we were shooting with firearms. It's interesting to know that even the weakest air rifle made it through, but did not bulge the clay nearly as much as other options. I think the biggest hole here was made from the most powerful air rifle. But what we also have to mention is that this pre-existing hole here made it possible that the 9mm round had less material to bulge and actually over-penetrated, hit this cinder block here, and it stuck here. From the results of these highly scientific tests, Redneck Science, I have decided to compare the 9mm handgun with the most powerful air rifle. So how do they actually compare with numbers? Well, this one is chambered in 9mm, this one is chambered in 45. The weight of the projectile of the 9mm is 124 grain. For this one, it's a bit over 200 grains. And the actual amount of energy at the muzzle depends on what kind of rounds do you use, what's the actual length of the barrel for the 9mm, but it's around, let's say, 350 to 450 joules. You have plus P ammunition that it's maybe goes up to 600. Now, with this air rifle, I saw the claims of around 600 joules, but I think the similar thing applies. What kind of bullet you use, and for this one especially, how much air pressure do you still have left? So let's see what do they do on targets down the range. My next target will consist of 7 layers of drywall and backed up by this brick of clay. We have one for the airgun and one for the 9mm handgun. Let's shoot it and compare the results. So the 9mm went clean through. Nice entry hole, nice exit hole, and it made through the first layer of cinder block. This is the 45 air rifle. Nice entry hole and a big gaping hole through the drywall. Then entered the clay media, and it looks like it stopped here, and this is the mark on the cinder block. Let's try to find the bullet. So here you can see how the bullet was traveling inside the clay and actually took a lot of this drywall material with it. This is the path, and when it hit the end of the clay and the start of the cinder block, it had too little energy to actually make some damage, and it just stopped here. So let's look at it. Yeah, it's a nice mushroom shape. And I think it retained most of its mass, just deformed. How can we interpret these results? At the first glance, it doesn't really make sense because on paper, the air rifle has more energy at the muzzle. But if we think about it, the actual bullet that it fires, it's twice as heavy as, almost twice as heavy as the 9mm, and it's a bigger caliber. Also, the bullet for the air rifle is non-jacketed, and the 9mm is jacketed. What all of these factoids mean is that to achieve pretty much the same energy, this round, the 9mm, is smaller and lighter and has to travel faster, and this one is heavier and it's traveling slower and gets its energy from the mass. What this means on the target is that velocity, a higher velocity gives you more penetration. This is also what we see here. If we look at the actual damage on the drywall and the clay, we could see that the 45mm slug, the 45 caliber slug, did more damage, but the 9mm went clean through and had enough energy to make a hole here. There was just enough energy to actually puncture a hole in the cinder block, but the slug did not pass through. It was lying down here. What has also probably distorted our results here is that my shot with the air rifle was too low. So cinder block is maybe a bit more thick at the bottom, and what we'll do now, we'll try to shoot it again at the higher position with the same setting and see if there will be any difference. We have refilled the tank on the air rifle, so this was a full powered shot. It's a nice hit in the center of our intended target. It's a clean, nice entry hole. But what we see here is a lot of damage, and yeah, from what I can see in the middle of this material and at the entrance of the white clay, the bullet was actually stopped with this drywall. So again, we get a similar result as before. The 9mm went clean through. The 45, it deformed, I guess, more. It distributed more of its energy, transferred it to the material, destroyed it. But at the end, it did not had that much penetration power. Just to check. Yes, so nothing at the back of the clay. From what I can see here, it didn't even enter. And we have the bullet here. Oh yeah, it's deformed and it's still a bit warm. Попробуй какой методичка. We shot both of the rounds into about 18 centimeters of ballistic gelatin. And no surprises here, both of the rounds penetrated without a problem and actually went through all of the clay and exited at the back. Now, comparing the wound channels, we don't see much difference, only that the 9mm has a smaller entry hole and the 45 has a bigger entry hole. For the last test of this day, I will be shooting at this ballistic helmet. This is an old helmet from Slovenian military. It's very thin, and I suspect that it will be no match for our weapons today. Let's shoot it and see what happens. That was a good center hit. And from what I can see here, yes, we have penetration. So this is the bullet here. I think I can get it out. Oh. Yeah, I could get it out just with my fingers. It's quite deformed. It maybe penetrated a centimeter in the ballistic gel, but it came through this helmet. From the fibers here, I think this is not even ballistic fiber, it's just fiberglass. So this fragment felt a bit light. So we looked at the gel closely and realized that there's another fragment inside. We cut it open, and this was actually the entry wound, and the other part is here. So this kind of distance in the gel. And this part is, I think, the front part of the bullet. It's heavier, and it traveled, I would say, 2/3 of the distance in the gel. So that's still a lot of energy left. So it was not just a penetration of the helmet, it also had enough energy to probably kill you. So now I will turn it around and shoot it with 9mm and see what it does. Well, no surprises here. The 9mm went through the helmet. But we have the case of the missing bullet. So we were trying to find the bullet in the gel. It was not there. Then we tried to find it in the helmet, or try to find the exit hole on the helmet, and it's also not there. And after a lot of thought and consideration, what we think happened was that actually 9mm entry hole was here. It went through the helmet and landed somewhere around the entry hole of the air rifle. And because the structure here was already weakened, it left the helmet here and out to the back of the tires. We couldn't find the bullet, but this is the only sensible explanation that we have. Since 9mm Parabellum is not such a powerful round, I would suspect that this is a really, really shitty helmet. What have I learned today? Well, I'm no ballistic expert, but I'm pretty sure that this thing can make you not alive anymore. These big bore, high-powered air rifles are no joke. They show that they are not a toy, they're very capable, and I would imagine that these are very good alternative for some countries where they have restrictive gun laws. Also, I want to say a big thanks to Royal that provided us with these awesome rifles, ammunition, and the place to film today. If you're looking for some quality firearms and accessories, maybe check them out. This is it for today. Thank you for watching and stay safe.